Okay. Uh, Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sagas and Sass. I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Nick and Nami, and we're here because we have a lot of thoughts and feelings about Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse. This is season 1, episode 14, covering Lives of the Saints, which is a Grishaverse companion book.
If you're watching live, join us in the chat or after the fact. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sagas and Sass, one word, to continue the conversation.
And just as a reminder, the views expressed in this show are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole.
All right. So we've got a bunch of quick newsy stuff I wanted to cover. I don't believe this episode will be super long in terms of us talking about Lives of the Saints because it's not a very long, book. But before we get into our drinking game rules, the things that I wanted to talk about, there was an ill-fated fan art contest that Netflix tried to start where they were basically, saying hey, Grishaverse fans, send us your art and we will if we like it, if it wins or whatever, we will feature it. But in the rules it said that Netflix was going to own any and all rights to the art, and it also I think specifically said that the artist would not get credit for their art, which is a huge no-no. So there was a big uproar. Sorry, I gotta shut the door real quick. I had to let out a cat and then somebody turned on a TV. I'm not used to living with people, So any thought, I know we've chatted about it a bit, in our little, pre-show stuff, but you guys have any thoughts on that? Did you read any of the articles or see any of the trolley memes from fans?
One of the things I was amazed by was that the only prize that was offered was an annual subscription to Netflix.
Yeah.
And in exchange, you gave up all rights to your art.
Yeah. I don't even know. No, I mean, I'm not an artist. I don't draw things or do digital art or anything like that. That's just not my purview. I know Nami is a little bit, I think. But I can't imagine. I have so many friends that do that. I can't imagine designing something and the thing is most people, or maybe not even most people, you'd hope a lot of people would read the rules and know that it was, questionable, but the Grishaverse does have a lot of young fans that probably, I mean, if I was a teenager, even now in the age of the internet, the way it is, I don't know if I would have read those rules carefully. So yeah. Nami, did you had something you wanted to say?
Well, I didn't see any of the trolley entries, but I was just really happy to see how quickly they sort of backtracked on that when they realized how much they've effed up. And
yeah,
I was kind of impressed because it's not often that you see, the big corporal giant, whatever. The big corporate giant, backing down to the words of the people, but they actually did, and it was pretty good. So kind of impressed about that. Got no other thoughts besides the fact that literally everybody I saw on the Grisha, the people I interact with were just, all of them were hey, y'all, did you see this? It's effed up. Tell them it's effed up. Shout at them. Good job. We shouted at them. Well done.
All right. So other than their little ill-fated fan art contest or whatever you want to call it, the official Netflix Reddit account actually they made a post in the Grishaverse subreddit with the new set of official pictures, which I don't think that they shared them there way earlier than elsewhere, but it's still really neat that the actual Netflix owned, Reddit account kind of recognize the sub, because I don't think that's ever happened with any other show I'm a fan of that has a subreddit. So whoever's marketing this show certainly knows what they're doing. But yeah, it was cool that they shared them there, officially and everything. And I mean, the Grishaverse sub, when I joined it weeks ago, or no, a couple months ago, it was, I don't know, 5,000, 8,000 members or something. And now it's at, hold on, let me double check. Oh no, okay. Yeah, when I joined it a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, it was like, it must have been like 2,000 because I knew it had grown by about 3 because they're at about almost 6,000 subs now. And I mean, the posts have just exploded. So yeah, really cool that Netflix recognized them. They clearly, I mean, minus the dumb fan art contest rules, they know what they're doing.
And honestly, even though they did do that, like, hey, we do love growth in this house, and they did change up their shit. Hold up. I'm gonna mute myself.
I'm really glad that Nami did the hashtag "We love growth" in this house before we set the drinking game rules.
I'm still drinking.
It's like she knows.
It's almost like she might have read the rules before.
What?
No.
We talked about the rules before? No. No worries. I was bequeathed pasta for my little sister because she stole part of my dinner and okay, it was like, so straight up my mom made these like I don't know how to explain it. It's called rava dosa, essentially Indian crepes, right? And she made like the last 3 for me, and then my little sister, as I'm about to eat my third, comes like floating downstairs, and she's like, "Hey, I never had one. Aw, I want one." And my mom just straight up takes it off my plate and gives it to her. And I was just like,
rude.
I was like, betrayal. So in true Nami form, I threw a toddler hissy fit and came upstairs and took an angry nap.
And now you have pasta.
So, but I have received a public pasta for my little sister, and I do accept it.
You accept the offer.
Texture of my.
It's no hard cheeses, but. So the other thing is some early reviews from the shows are in, and obviously people, for people who got screeners, people are having to be vague. There is they can't talk about it until, I believe they can't post actual like reviews or screenshots or anything. I think it's April 21st. So they can't say much, but they're being very positive about it. I saw one reviewer, like a screenshot of his tweet has been shared like everywhere in the fandom, and he was saying it's the best Netflix dark fantasy since the Dark Crystal series, which was very good, despite the fact that it didn't get renewed. And
I'm also really happy that we finally got to see Zoya, because I've been waiting to see Zoya this entire time. And I'm like, yeah. And
there's something different about you there. No,
I'm not saying I got bangs cut because I saw Zoya, but I'm also not.
But you literally squealed when you saw the picture and said, "I'm gonna go get bangs."
That's pretty much exactly what I did. I saw the picture yesterday. I tried to book a haircut for yesterday night after work, but they weren't open. So I literally got up early this morning to get bangs cut so I could be back with Zoya. And like, I'm not saying that Sajaya Dasgupta is the most gorgeous person ever. But no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, no, sorry.
That's fair.
Well, I mean, in that case, it's a fitting casting, right? So yeah, I did see, like, I haven't specifically, I haven't seen these tweets or anything with mine own eyes, but like apparently there's some reviewers comparing the show to Riverdale, which is weird and confusing and worrisome. Like, they're still saying it's good, but I'm guessing they haven't read the books also. So it's like, what about Riverdale are you comparing this to? Pretty people and angst? Because, okay, like, if those are the simple things it has in common, fine. But I'm, like, struggling to think what else they could be talking about. So I really hope that's all it is.
Yeah,
teenagers and angst is all I can kind of think of.
And I did watch a couple seasons of Riverdale. It was a guilty pleasure of mine, so like it's not like I hated everything about it, but like guilty pleasure for a reason. So
yeah, I haven't watched it at all. I've seen, like Sabrina, and I know they're technically supposed to be in the same universe, but like even that, I'm like,
Oh, are they really? I didn't know that. Well, and Sabrina's a Netflix show, and Riverdale is a CW show. That's weird.
Yeah, apparently
But they're all based on Archie comics.
Apparently the latest season of Riverdale also has like magic now, so like I don't even know what's happening.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll see. Or maybe I won't because I haven't watched Riverdale in a million years. But so yeah, interesting and weird comparison that I'm hoping doesn't mean anything ill-fated. All right. And last but not least, there have been some pretty strong rumors, as in like people who have actually have a really good track record of reporting that Netflix shows are renewed before it's officially announced, saying that the show that Shadow and Bone has in fact already been renewed for season 2. So I won't be shocked at all if it is, unless somehow it's just really terrible and everything they've showed us so far was a lie. But so yeah, that's cool. I will say that even before the renewal, like rumors started really coming out of the woodwork within the past like 4 or 5 days, maybe a little less, the Nikolai fan castings were getting out of hand, and now they are like so far out of hand that I actually had to unfollow the Facebook groups that I'm in, because like I'll still go look at them and stuff. But last night, in less than 5 minutes of me scrolling my newsfeed, I saw 3 separate posts in the same group of people fan casting Nikolai, and I was like, I feel like we need a master post. Like, I didn't comment this because I can just unfollow the group, which I didn't really want to do, but also I'm lazy. So, yeah, I just, they really need to do like a master post of fan casting, because it's out of hand. It's out of hand. Like, I'm very excited for Nikolai too, y'all. But at this rate, it's probably going to be 2022 before we get a second season. I mean, it is going to be 2022, but it's probably going to be like end 2022, possibly even beginning 2023 before we get a second season, with how long this one took to create. So,
although I do think my favorite thing to come out of the posts of the new screenshots that were posted was everybody looking at the one with the king and Basili and being like, "Excuse me, sir, I want the other brother, not this garbage one. Thank you."
Yeah.
I mean, Nikolai isn't in,
exactly. It was just really funny that was like
book,
everyone's collective response. It was like, "Garbage brother, no thank you. Give me the better one."
Thanks. I want the other one.
I can't wait to see what the queen looks like up close and personal, because like we only got that really far away shot of her, and I'm really curious how they're gonna make her up, because in the book it's like she's someone who's had a little too much work done. Like, it's very good work, but you can tell she's had a lot of it done. Her eyes are too blue, her skin is too smooth, and too pale, and her hair is too perfect of a honey blonde or whatever. I can't remember the exact descriptions, but like I'm very interested to see who they. I guess I haven't really looked at who they cast, but like, so less who they cast, but how they. That's on me, but how they pulled it off, like, or if they even bothered, honestly.
It'll be a cool look.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm at that age where it's like, maybe that's the one I cosplay, the awful queen. Like, at least she loves Nikolai, her son. That would be a twist for Nick and I if we ever meet up in cosplay, because we met cosplaying Cersei and Jaime, brother and sister. So,
Time for mother's son.
All right. So, any other like newsy stuff you guys have heard or anything like that? Or are we ready to jump into our St. Patrick's Day discussion?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So right now we actually have a couple people viewing us. I'm shocked because I haven't actually had a second yet to share it to our Twitter or anything. But so tonight's we're playing a drinking game because it's St. Patrick's Day. So, happy St. Patrick's Day. I don't know about you guys, but I'm still in like, I only go out for like little things here and there. And like, maybe I'll go out to eat, but it's only outside, for a quick meal, like not, I'm not going to bars and drinking on St. Patrick's Day of all days right now. But so because of that, and because of the fact that we're doing this webcast on St. Patrick's Day and it's covering a book called Lives of the Saints, we're going to do a little bit of a drinking game. I don't know. Nick, you want to read a couple of the rules, and like I'll read a couple, Nami can read a couple, whatever. We've got a few of them.
Sure. Sounds great. Let's see. So starting it off with one drink per guest wearing green. So I believe we are all wearing green, which means we will be taking 3 drinks. Do we want to do that now?
Yeah, we might as well. So cheers, y'all. I didn't even notice that Nami's sleeves were green. Nami, what is that sweater?
It's a Lyrica Matoshi sweater. It's got like, clouds and then grass at the bottom and then sky at the top. Wow, I'm so good at descriptions. Sky at the top, grass at the bottom.
I feel like should the sky be on the bottom? I don't know. All right. Well, I'll so cheers again. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Blah blah blah. So rule number 2 is, and this was suggested by somebody who might at some point drop into the live chat and mention these things just so that we have to drink. And because because we are all adults who have to work tomorrow, I narrowed it down a bit. So if any of the following are mentioned, we're only drinking the first time they are mentioned. So starting after I read this, or after we read the rules, actually, once we actually get into the discussion, St. Patrick's Day, Patrick Swayze, leprechauns, or Twilight for some reason. I think because I complain about Twilight a lot.
Is it St. Patrick's Day?
As well. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I think the exact. Oh yeah. There's somebody in the chat who has suggested some of these. I think the exact thing was St. Patrick Swayze, but yes, it is St. Patrick's Day. All right, Nami, you want to read rule number 3?
So, I guess we should technically be back drinking one, but drink if we mention #we love growth in this house. And I'm not saying I did it on purpose, but like I only did it on purpose, like 30%, because they did grow, like it was valid.
Yeah, absolutely they did.
All right, what else we got?
Next up, since this is involving me, it seems appropriate that I mention it.
Yeah.
We're going to drink every time a new person compliments my outfit.
Yeah. I figured if it's one person, then we're good. All right. Now, these last ones, I feel like we didn't really ever solidify them. Do we want to drink for every Grisha that is not a fabricator? Because that's like over half of them were fabricators in this book. Some of them we don't know what they were, and I think it's actually looking at this list, I think we weren't sure about things. So I think honestly more of these are likely to be fabricators than that. So let's stick with we're gonna drink for every Grisha that's not a fabricator, for sure. And then
we can also drink for any normie or for a person that we can't like figure out the truth behind their story to tell what their actual powers were.
I feel like we might die if we do both.
Yeah, I feel like that's still a little dangerous. So I think sticking with it's definitely a Grisha and it's definitely not a fabricator.
Yeah.
Keeps us alive.
Or is a Grisha and is like something else, like because some of them are definitely more than one, as we discussed after reading King of Scars. So I think if they were a fabricator and something else, we can probably take a little sip for them for the other thing. But now I put a random, like just a drink for Alina, which I feel like is a little bit boring. And when I say drink for Alina, I just mean like take a sip when we get to her, when we discuss her story, not every time she's mentioned. Oh my God. So it's a little bit boring, but we'll pour one out in our mouths for Alina when we get to her story. And then please be careful, you guys, because we're gonna have to finish our drinks for the Darkling when we get to his story. So let's just make sure we're real low when we get to that point. Which we know when it'll be coming. It's at the very end. So I don't think we need to go through these one by one. There are a lot of them. I did finally go through and try to, like parcel them out who is a Grisha and who is not, because I'd gotten about 3/4 of the way through the book, maybe 2/3, and then I kind of stopped making notes of them. But I don't know, there's like a good like 24 or more little tales here. A lot of them are very short. I guess before we discuss anything deeper, like, how did you guys feel about this book? Because like it's no Language of Thorns, let's be real.
Yeah. So I was a little bit confused for some of the stories, because from my impression of Lives of Saints, I assumed it was going to be like, every single saint's origin story. And so for the fact that there were some like, speckled in there that weren't origin stories at all, but were actually, oh, my drink has arrived.
Yay!
So my mom got me a Bud Light, and she told me, and she comes up and she's like, I got you a Bud Light, because Bud Light is absolute garbage, and this is my little sister's, but it's the only alcohol in this house right now, and I'm gonna have to make do.
I mean, I'm drinking lime White Claws because they're green.
Like, still better though, honestly. Like, White Claws are like so many levels above Bud Lights. But yeah, no. So I was just really confused about the fact that like the stories were not like consistently always about the saint's origin, and it was instead, some sort of like how somebody prayed to the saint and was saved. And then, while I did like the Darkling story because it gave us insight on a certain somebody, I was also confused by the fact that that was the story you picked. And then the Alina story, I was just like, eh. But yeah, that was it generally. I did also, I enjoyed some of the illustrations. Some of them were kind of meh, but some of them were also really pretty. And I think my most favorite thing about the book overall is that even though obviously we don't have like, a Novi Zem story and like, a Sully story and like a Shuhan story, like we don't like have like these worlds fleshed out in the books so far. I liked that we still got to glimpse saints from these areas as well in this story. And it was really interesting to see that even though like the saints seem to be, Ravka's religion so much not so much everywhere else's, that like Rav can still believe in saints from other countries, and that sainthood could be bestowed on anybody. And I thought that was a really just interesting thing to exist.
Yeah.
I will say that the Sully story was my favorite, just because I was like, Sully content! Yes!
I don't even know which one was that.
That was Maria. So that was
okay.
The coal miners, and then the little girl who was told by the seer to go in as well, and she ends up being a Grisha who can hold up the rocks because she rocks.
But
I'm a comedic genius. What can I say, y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And to be honest, like, I get that not all of them were, and I don't even know if I was necessarily expecting them all to be straight origin stories, but the ones that weren't, some of them, it was just very, and I think we'll get in, you'll be able to tell which ones I mean. Like, some of them were just very confusing. Like, okay, it's not an origin story, that's fine, but what about this, like, says this person is a saint? Well, I guess, like, just to kind of mention one of them, and we don't have to talk about it again later, I guess. I think it was Sankt Valentine. Valentine. I'm not really sure how, there's no E at the end, so I'm not quite sure how it would be pronounced. But like, the story is about a girl who's poisoned by her fiance. And Valentine is the patron saint of snake charmers and the lonely. Okay. Which, snake charmers, St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to drink for that.
Hey.
It's been a minute. Why not? But like, other than the saint supposedly speaking to the girl's mother through a snake to tell her about the poisoning, I don't know. Like, not only could I not place him as a Grisha because we know nothing about who he was or why he became the patron saint of snake charmers and the lonely, but like, also, like, I mean, I guess he must have been a Grisha if he really was speaking to her through a snake, sort of like, Juris and the dragon, or maybe even, I know Grigori's tale, as we see it in King of Scars, is a little messed up because he's kind of constantly reforming, and that's something to do with something that happened to him, I think, after the fact. But like, yeah, I don't know. It was just a little bit weird. Like, there are some in there that it's just like, this is confusing and I don't understand.
Yeah, it was a bit odd to me, mostly because at that point I couldn't figure out if it was that he that it was actually him directly exerting influence, and like, she, since she was lonely, was also like manifested back as a snake, which is also his purview there. And I don't know, it was a bit odd to me. The other thing was that I was like, is the snake supposed to be like him relaying information, or is it just her, like a vengeful spirit who's back now? And I couldn't place that either. And I was just like, I don't know what's happening, but magic.
Yeah, well, I think my guess was that the daughter who died was the lonely one because
Yeah.
nobody was visiting her grave, right? That was my assumption or whatever. I could be wrong, obviously. Like, I don't know what exactly Leigh like was trying to tell us there, but and I guess a lot of them are actually kind of open to interpretation, but yeah, that one was just one of the ones where I was like, I mean, okay, like there's no origin story here. I also don't really like, because we know nothing about why he was those things. Like, I don't know. It was a little weird.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know what's up, but she's lonely, so he looked out for her even though she was dead.
Yeah. And probably we'll never know.
The whole book was a little odd to me because of that, because we don't really have any context for most of these saints. And then to have stories where you're not really telling the story of the saint, but maybe somebody who was somehow affected by the saint. I don't know, it just didn't quite.
Well, and I guess like, no, yeah. I mean, I think it's a really like cool book. You know what I mean? I ignoring the fact that mine is upside down. It is a really cool looking book. The cover is really pretty and everything. And I love like Nami said, some of the art in it is really great. Some of it's kind of meh, but like it's still.
Actually, one thing I will say about this thing is that I actually do really love the art for that one. That's got some real pretty aesthetic. Can I find it? No, I'm in the wrong place. Can I find it now? Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's like,
yeah. Is that Elizabeth?
No, this is the Saint Valentine one.
Valentine.
Okay. And that's like her evil.
Oh yeah.
Like fiance who poisoned her. And then there was another one that I really liked. Where is it? I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, we talked about this because I got a review copy of this right before like our first episode.
Oh, so this one, Saint Marotti. I really loved this one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
On the pier, like just looking like a goddess, and then the two lovers uniting in the boat. And I'm like, oh, so pretty.
Yeah, that was a good story too. But yeah, so I got the review copy of this, and I remember talking about it and being like, I'm just not sure how I feel about this art. Like I was expecting more like holy looking stuff or whatever. And somebody sort of corrected me. Like, but again, like I'm not Catholic, so I don't know what it was really supposed to look like. I guess I just had this kind of just based on like the Catholic like art and churches that I've been to, like on my travels and stuff. I had this sort of assumption of what it would look like. And of course it's not going to be exactly, that or whatever. It's not a Catholic book per se. But it's different. It's different. So let's dive in, I guess, and just kind of go through some of these. Some of them are really like simple. Like the first one, Margareta, who creates she makes this like giant gem or something and like dumps it into a canal in Ketterdam, to save the children from the demon. Obviously fabricator. Ko, who was the clock or the sword or both, right?
That was, oh man, which one was that one?
Or well, if we go in order, Anastasia was one I wasn't sure about. She like she's the one with the blood, and she's talked about, I believe, in the books a few times. They basically, her blood like saves her village from a plague, and they like bleed her until she dies. Like, so I guess she could be like a corporalki, but like she's not healing anybody; she's just giving them her blood. So that one was a little bit weird.
That was one that I kind of read it like that the actual story was probably a metaphor for her overworking herself, trying to save everybody's lives.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So also, by the way, if y'all want to chime in with like what you interpreted the actual story of the Saint's origin to be, like a la how we know that Juris is, you know, like he didn't kill the dragon, he became the dragon, like that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would be interested to know y'all's opinions on that, because I definitely read it with that sort of POV. Like if I could figure out what the truth was, I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, I mean, or I suppose it could, I mean, it could also be like how some people are immune to things, and they were like she was actually using her blood to heal them, but not in like
straight up vaccinating people with her
right.
blood.
Yeah, right. So there's that, you know, possibility as well.
Ancient vaccine growing within her flesh because she is a corporalky and it's cool like that.
We need one of those right now.
Well, I guess that means she's a Grisha and a corporalky, so drink.
Sorry guys, I'm gonna make us drink.
Hey.
See, I read these maybe a little bit. Oh my gosh.
Actually punishment. Like Bud Light literally like makes me feel like I'm drinking piss water.
Dolly Parton is a saint, honestly. Like I'll take a sip for Dolly Parton.
Legit. Yeah. Absolutely. Cheers to Dolly Parton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dolly.
Yeah, I think I might have, you know, to be fair, I read like the first half of this, like when I first got the book last year, maybe a little bit more. And then I set it aside because I knew I was going to have to like read it for the webcast. And I kind of skimmed back over the ones I'd already read. But a lot of these, even then, like even when I skimmed it, it was like a month and a half, 2 months ago. So I think so like, it's still not super fresh in my mind. And I think I might have read a lot of these a little too literally, which is why I had trouble determining whether some of them were Grisha or not. Because like the next one is the shoe. It's one of the shoe tales, and it's about Ko and Nayar, both of whom were obviously fabricators. Like one of them makes an army of clockwork soldiers, and the other one makes like a sword to stop the army. Like this one's pretty straightforward. Like I don't know if I believe that there was a literal army of clockwork soldiers, but regardless, so I guess in that case it could have been a corporalky, but if we take it more literally, yeah, I think that, you know, obviously these two are fabricators, and it's very simple. And I guess that's another thing. Like before we really like dive into the rest of these as quick as we're probably going to have to go through them, like what do you guys think is the reasoning behind so many of them obviously being fabricators versus the other, you know, orders being less obvious or less represented?
I think it might be one of those things that fabricator skills are those that can be less obvious and more hidden. So when they do come out in some big way, it's more magical. Because for most people, if you have something as obvious as, you know, corporality powers, you literally can like squeeze a heart to death, or you can heal somebody, and that's pretty obvious right away. If you're, you know, like a tide maker or squaller, like manipulating elements is pretty obvious and you can see it right away. So something with fabricators, and as evidenced by, you know, Jesper being a fabricator and not realizing it for so long, it's very possible that so many of these, you know, just normally very talented people are actually, you know, a little bit magical. And that part of their talent comes from these fabricator abilities. And obviously, like, that's not to say that there aren't just, you know, regular straight up talented people, because that's absurd. But it's one of those types of powers that, like, it's so easy to not see it or to miss it for something else, or to just be like, I shoot guns good, you know? Because, like, we have literally 2 full books of boy being like, I shoot guns good, and other boy being like, but like, that's really good though.
That's like super good. Like, oh my god,
like too good.
also, let it be known, I'm like straight up picturing like Wyland standing there, like curling his hair around his finger, be like that's super good though.
Oh my god, you're like so good at shooting.
God,
oh my god. What?
Oh god.
All right. Yep. I did it. Over it.
Well, so speaking of characters that are very clearly mentioned in the books we've already read, the next one is Eurus. And of course, we know a little bit more about him. We know he didn't kill the dragon, he became it. But this is one of the stories that was a little bit maddening because it's about something he did as a saint, like after he'd already died. And it seems kind of odd because it's like, I would have liked... We already know a little bit about him from King of Scars. This book was published after King of Scars. He is gone after King of Scars. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, guys, spoilers for King of Scars, I guess. He is gone after King of Scars. So, like, we might find out a little bit more about him in Rule of Wolves, but I can't imagine that it will be, like, his full origin story. So it seems a little weird that we got this sort of after death, you know, Eurus supposedly helping these men who got caught in like a snowstorm or whatever, and that's all it was too. Like he supposedly kept the ones who prayed to him warm or whatever, which I guess is, you know, he's a dragon. If he's the dragon who can breathe fire, that's legit. But
it's just one of those things that, like, it felt like the biggest sort of broken promise from this book in a way. Because one thing I did think that I was going to get from this book was Elizaveta's story, Grigori's story, and Juris's story. And with Elizaveta and Grigori, obviously we got them. And Elizaveta's story, I think, is also talked about in the main trilogy.
Yeah, it does.
But like, it's one of those things that, like, Juris was objectively the one that we kind of bond to and like the most because he's the one that we see the most. And it just felt really Robbie to not actually, you know, get that story of how he became to be. Like, don't get me wrong, I like that we also got a story where we could so obviously see, like, yep, he's a dragon, he kept them warm, I see how that works. But at the same time, I wanted his origin more, just so, like, I don't know, it's just what I wanted, y'all.
Yeah, like,
also,
I'm hoping that we're gonna get something about this in Rule of Wolves to make us feel better. That's all I had to say about that.
It also drove home to me that, like, what I'm missing from this book as a whole is its title. I don't get a whole lot of the lives of the saints.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, you know, some of that is that it is the book that is mentioned in the original trilogy, you know, like the opera gives it to Alina, and she basically was like, this is like a book of religious children's stories, you know what I mean? Like it's you know, and so I wasn't expecting it to be some fleshed out thing like Language of Thorns by any means. And there's also way more saints, you know, than like there are stories for Language of Thorns as well. So like I get some of where Leigh went with this, but yeah, I mean, again, like, for it to be called Lives of the Saints, whereas we might not have gotten the full, you know, story, like fleshed out story of each saint, I expected more than just there, because there are quite a few, like a lot of stories in here that aren't about the saints themselves, but rather things they supposedly helped other people with or did after they had already died. And I literally just like avoided saying the word martyred because like after they were martyred, because I was like, shoot, was that a drinking game rule? It wasn't, but now I'm going to drink for avoiding for like specifically trying to avoid.
Yeah, I do think that is the appropriate punishment in this case, Tara.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so next was Vasilka, a fabricator. You know, she makes herself the wings to get away from the dude who won't stop bugging her. She's apparently she's supposedly the first Firebird. But like, really the best part about this story was like the guy just bugging her, and she just wants to be left alone, and he tries to force marriage on her, and she just answers his questions with questions, and I was like, bye, bitch. Like,
can we talk about iconic, because this bitch iconic. like I want to get on her level, and like honestly, let's be real, if a dude ever pulled this to me, I would like definitely punch him before I had the patience to pull off like this sort of reversal. Like, iconic.
Like, she just didn't want to be married, dude. Like, she's also the patron saint of unwed women, and as somebody who like straight up said like, I don't want marriage, you know, for a long time. Like there are ways to get around that with a person, but bugging them into or trying to bug them into submission is not one of them.
I mean, dude, you literally bugged her so hard she yeeted herself out a window. Like, how does that make you feel? like, can we talk about that for a second? Because this dude must suck so hard. And like, valid, like he definitely sucks really hard, but he must suck so hard.
I mean, he's just annoying. You know, he's just annoying. And also like they call him the sorcerer, and I kind of have this like I almost wonder these days whenever I read about sorcerers in the Grishaverse books, like, was it just the Darkling when he was younger? Like every single time? Like, did the Darkling like or was it Ilia maybe like before his like before Ilia got married? Was it his wife or before he got married? Was it like him like looking for a wife? Like, was it the Darkling or one of his relatives just like you know what I mean? Like just this is every time I read about a sorcerer, that's what I'm going to think in these books.
You've convinced me. This was definitely Baby Darkling.
Like, oh my gosh, he's so annoying. Like was he just like was he like actually trying to create the Firebird for himself in a way? Like, are we getting like a tale that wasn't really the real story? And like it was actually Ilia maybe trying to create the Firebird. Ooh. Oh my God, why am I going so deep with this? Stop.
I didn't even
not that deep.
You went hard on that.
I did just now too. By the way, I just now you just were had like, this whole downward spiral.
Do you ever just have an existential crisis about men sucking so hard that you think it was a conspiracy for power?
Yes, I do actually. Like, I also have generalized anxiety, so on a regular basis, I feel like that's not just about men, but it's usually about men.
No, today a group of teenagers gestured threateningly at me on the street, and I straight up jumped and shrieked, and they laughed at me for 3 blocks, and I'm like, I'm glad I could provide you with that entertainment, like. Thanks, kid.
Oh, yeah, I have a TikTok story about that, but it's not worthy of even repeating on this webcast. It's so dumb.
Just to take a moment, if any man is watching or listening, do not ever do this kind of behavior. Do not continue to pester and pursue somebody after they have clearly said no. Just leave it.
And also, right back at you to any NBs and femmes on the chat, because, hey, listen, we're guilty of it too, and we're just called out for it less.
Because also, it's less of a systemic issue with women and NBs. So,
true.
Like, yes, absolutely, anybody can perpetuate those kinds of behaviors, but it is not quite as prone to violence and is not as systemic.
More.
Yeah,
men are terrible. We're the worst.
Well, and I think a big part of this is like read the room, because I don't know that she specifically ever says no, leave me alone, but like the fact that she never answers his questions, that she always responds with a question of her own, and she just keeps working, and she's like, is it, do they, like she's clearly uninterested. Leave it be. Like, you don't even have to say, I don't think a person should even have to say no. Like, read the fucking room, dude.
That's such a huge problem too, because a lot of, particularly a lot of women, are conditioned to not say no because of a fear of repercussions, and so it's incumbent on men to realize, like, oh, maybe I should just chill and not keep doing this, and remove myself from the situation instead of continuing to put that pressure on a woman. Or an NB or anybody else. But it's most often man on woman issue.
Okay, so next we have Nikolai, which is another weird one, because like he's this little kid who's like on a ship and they get stranded, and he prays to the saints and he's gifted with food and whatever, and like he has a lot of faith, and he ends up, you know, being a good dude because they all like survive this, you know, stranded thing, and they get back home, and the captain and the crew who tried to, like, we're gonna eat him for Christ's sake, like they're gonna cannibalize this chubby child.
Yikes, Batman.
like they try to talk shit about him, and you know, but like somehow they just like waste away after the fact, and like Nikolai goes around and like it continues, his sack continues being filled with goodies, and he like brings them to the poor and stuff. So he's like an all-around good guy. He's blessed by the saints, but is he a saint himself? Like he's basically just taking the things that gods have supposedly given him and passing them on. So again, and again, maybe I'm reading this too literally. Good guy, and this also does remind me of actual Nikolai's story, because Nikolai isn't a Grisha. He's not powered or powerful in terms of like magical ways. Like but he is a king. He is a leader, and so he has things that he can give to people and things that he can do for people, and he does utilize that power of his for good. You know, for the I want to say for the most part, but you know, other than like his time as Sturmhund, where he definitely did some stupid, shitty things, like generally a good guy, but like is Nikolai, I don't think Nikolai was a Grisha, and I don't think he was
the thing that struck me was the reindeer every time. I kind of was thinking that it was the reindeer that actually had any sort of power or anything. So my sort of interpretation of it was like that this kid was legitimately just a lost kid, and his faith was heard by someone who happened to be powerful, and, you know, something along the lines of Juris and the dragon, or just some sort of other intelligent magical creature in that reindeer. And that reindeer was the thing that gave him, you know, the stuff. And that was my interpretation of it. Versus like not so much giving him the stuff, but like leading him to places where he knew that he would be able to survive, that sort of thing. So that was the way that I was reading it. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, there's a fabricator hiding in a hut, just cooking a lot of food.
So we're just gonna say he wasn't a Grisha himself, probably, but they knew he was a good kid.
I think he was just a good chubby boy.
Well, he wasn't chubby to begin with, but he was chubby compared to the rest of the crew.
Cheeks, squish his little cheeks so that he grew up to become Santa Claus.
He a good little chunk.
Yeah, this was a very good, like, it was a dark Santa Claus story. I did like the story, you know, and I did like the parallels I was able to find with actual Nikolai, you know, the Nikolai that we know and love. All right.
It was interesting to see the parallels between him and Nikolai, because a part of me was also reading it like, oh, like Nikolai like definitely grew up with this story, is part of his shit, like trying to be as much like the Saint Nikolai as he can be, because he wants to be a good man. And like I was wondering, like, oh, I don't know, maybe like secret Nikolai motivation. Who knows? Yeah,
he wants to take over. Like he wants to. Yeah, I like that. Like he likes who he was named after, so he wants to take after him. All right, we can get through some of these real quick. Elizabeta is the next one. This one is a story we've heard. We heard from, you know, like in I think it was the original trilogy even, but like. Obviously a Grisha, you know, we know that just because we know like how she died. I don't quite know how I would place her. Like I honestly, if I'd read this story, I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, she's definitely a Grisha, without knowing what happened in King of Scars. Another good reason why we are doing this after reading King of Scars. So like she, you know, she's the bee, there's something to do with bees. She saves her village from you know, a marching army. It's something to do with bees. Do you guys have any idea what type of Grisha she might be? Because this is actually one of the longest, if not the longest story in the book too. Like,
is it bad that after the events of King of Scars, my initial knee-jerk reaction was to be like, yeah, she's a bitch?
No, I mean, I didn't love it either. Like I didn't love her either, but at the same time, like originally she probably wasn't, you know, like she just turned out that way after hundreds of years stranded by the Darkling.
Probably. I would venture a guess that that's probably the case. But yeah, no, I was super confused about the type of Grisha that she was, because like even in the actual story, it was like, ma'am, are you psychically bonded to bees? Like,
in which case, is there like some other order of Grisha that we don't know about? Because like that was kind of hinted at in King of Scars and is hinted at more in some of these stories. You know what I mean? Because like,
wait, actually, I think I just solved it in my brain, right?
Ooh.
Okay, so sit with me here, right? She is a fabricator, specifically one of those ones that deals with like potions and stuff, because most potions are made of, natural things. So, plants, hence why she is such a good gardener. Second step, the bees are her amplifiers. We did it.
Okay.
Ooh.
We solved it, kids. It's me, Grisha detective.
I like this. I do. I also like the idea that there could be another Grisha order or another form of corporalki that is linked to animals rather than people. Because if that exists,
Definitely
if
is.
we find out in Rule of Wolves, and also Rule of Wolves, if we find out that exists, that is the type of Grisha I am. Will never be able to tell me otherwise. No quiz will ever be able to tell me otherwise. It's like as I've gotten older, I was hardcore Hufflepuff for the longest time, and then like in my 30s, I started leaning a little bit more Gryffindor. Like not that I am Gryffindor, but I have my Gryffindor tendencies have gotten like more and more pronounced. I don't even know if I had any back when I was like in high school or whatever. But like, yeah, like no matter what happens, if there is a Grisha order that is like akin to like animal, like a corporalki for animals, that is me, and that's it. And you'll never be able to tell me otherwise. I'm the Dr. Doolittle of the Grisha bitches.
What if Rule of Wolves is just Nina discovering she can talk to Trassel and she rolls in and she's
Exactly.
like, "What up?
Exactly, right?
Your skill?
That would be so cool.
Hate you." Because I'd be down with that. Yeah, I think I would like that. But yeah, no, I'm also very much down for like animal controlling ability Grisha, because again, with what we know and the way that the rules were sort of switched on us in Kingdom of Scars, if the power of the Grisha is really the making at the center of the universe, then that making is animals as well. So therefore, it goes to stand that perhaps it's not a common power, but manipulating animals should definitely be within a Grisha's purview. And additionally, it's probably that it has mostly been manifesting in like the amplifier bond, and that since that was so corrupted, people didn't really know what to do with it. And so people never tried, because once again, if you're not told that you can do a thing, why would you ever try to do a thing? Humans are like that. We don't like to fail. So yeah.
Well, I will say I don't know how I feel about it being like control of animals. I think it's more like a kinship with them.
Kinship. I like kinship more than
because I don't think she controlled the bees either. Like they were her friends. She was a beekeeper,
They're like,
okay.
hurt my body.
So then we have Marotti, who's a summoner. So drink.
Oh.
This is the one where Nami had pointed out the art earlier, where Marotti is just this beautiful goddess, like at the edge of the ocean or at the edge of the dock, like with the two lovers there, saving them. It's Romeo and Juliet with a goddess to save their lives.
And this was one of the ones that I actually really liked, even though it wasn't an origin story per se, but it was like quote unquote while the saint was alive and before they were really properly a saint, I would say. And so the lovers like are trying to escape, and then she saves them by like straight up moving the clouds. So like that bitch a summoner. But yeah, no, it was just super cool. I just really liked it. I thought
it's very short. It's 2 pages, but it's a very sweet story. I like that it's a little bit of a twist on Romeo and Juliet too.
I like that they don't murder themselves.
Yeah. That's
Big
teenagers,
Teenagers are so dramatic. Y'all need to chill. Like, please.
All right. Demian is the next one. He is a fabricator. I would say would be he probably has other, things going on, but this is a Fjerdan. This is a Fjerdan one. My guess being fabricator, because he like keeps kind of moving the earth to like he changed. I guess he could be a summer. I don't know. Now that I'm looking at it again, I'm wondering, okay, maybe.
Wait, was this the one where he builds the ice court at the end?
No,
No.
this is the one where he builds.
no?
No, it's not. He builds like there's a cemetery, and people are mad about it
Yeah.
because like
One, yeah.
yeah, and there's like he builds an aqueduct, I think, and I think that was why, because it rains too much in the cemetery. So he designs an aqueduct and builds it, and that's why I thought he was.
Out the trees.
I think there's definitely
Mhm.
some other things too, because eventually he like raises the whole cemetery up on the mountain, you know. So
Yep.
Yeah, I
there's
think
other
it was
things
a mix as well, honestly. Like he was very much one of the ones who's like, yeah, I'm a fabricator, but take this earth, bam, earth bending.
And then the next one is the Sully one, earthbending. Yeah, the next one, there are definitely so many. The more I like read into this series, and especially having rewatched Avatar and Korra like end of last year, there's so many. I have to know if Leigh Bardugo is an Avatar and Korra fan. Like I have to assume that she is, because yeah. So next is Maria, which is the Sully one. I believe, right? Yeah, Sully. And this is the one where they bring her into the caves, and she like, because they're mining or whatever, and she holds are they mining?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she holds up the tunnels when they're about to collapse. And I was trying to remember which character in Ruin and Rising held the caverns up when they were escaping from the opera, but I couldn't. So, but whatever Grisha that is, that's what Maria is. Like I literally like I tried to look it up online, but the Grishaverse wiki is weak as fuck. So like it's not on there, and I don't have my copies of the original trilogy here with me. So
yeah,
and I just found a thing on each of the saints from the book.
Well, don't spoil us about other saints.
Oh, you're right.
Let us get some other ones.
So, according to this, which is the Grishaverse.fandom.com, Maria is a materialki.
Okay, so a fabricator. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I wish I could remember which one it was that held the caverns up, and because I thought it was Zoya, but it was Zoya and like maybe one or two other people, because I remember there being like this whole thing about them being tired, but gosh, I'm mad at myself that I can't remember this. But okay, so Maria is obviously a Grisha. That's not, we'll say she's a fabricator. It's fine. They're all fabricators in one way or another, apparently. The next one is Yeah. The next one is Emerand, and this is another one that I wasn't sure about, because literally this is just a dude who whines about the people getting drunk and not going to church, and then his holiness, quote unquote, chases rats from the grain silos. Like, so this is, I feel like this is another like animal centric one, but like I still can't place him as any sort of Grisha. So I feel like this might be just more proof that there is a what you could do little alky.
Yeah, no, this one was I was like, very confused on. Also, I just felt very bad because getting like suffocated under grain sounds like nasty.
Oh God, no! Yeah. There's a Kate Winslet movie about that, like where it's got Miley Cyrus's husband in it. The younger, attractive Hemsworth brother. And
they're not married anymore.
They're not. Oof, sad. He falls into a grain silo and dies. Like it's yeah. Ugh. Ugh. So yeah, like, but this is another one that's very animal centric. So I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, he was a Grisha, but we're just not gonna know what type, or like I don't know what type he is, and I'm hoping some of these are fleshed out. Like some of this is fleshed out in Rule of Wolves with some hopefully new information that we get, because now that I'm like looking over this after like coming up with this, and yes, I did say Doolittle Alki because I had no idea what it'd be called, and that sounded like the most ridiculous name I could give it, and I'll drink for how bad that was. So Vladimir Sankt Vladimir is next. He's the one that pushes the sea away from Oskervo so that they can like build docks.
I've ever seen one.
He's a what?
A tie maker if I've ever seen.
Yeah, so obviously a summoner. He might. I'm sure there's other things there. Because again, like these older Grisha, as we know, there was so much lore that was lost. But let's just say he's a summoner and take a sip. And his story is really straightforward. Like he literally pushes the sea away so that they can build docks, so that there can be trade in Osalta. Then we have
tiredness, which like I really identify with.
Yeah. He's so tired that he just lets himself drown, which is sad. I don't even know if that's really. I guess that's sort of martyrdom in a way. Next is Grigori. So this is, again, one of the stories that we already knew some about, but we didn't know as much about Grigori as we did about Elizaveta, whatever the fuck they call her. We didn't know as much about Grigori from the other books. So this was actually one of the few stories in here that I was like, oh, it's an origin story. It's a little bit more fleshed out. Like I feel like I know more about this kind of person that we saw in King of Scars, like, and he's dead too, correct? Like dead.
I think so.
So it was nice that we at least got, and so I guess maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, Rule of Wolves, there'll be something with Zoya kind of becoming the dragon that we are able to find out more about Jiras through her, because we did get Grigori's story.
Yeah, that's true.
And Grigori is another one that is like he's a corporalki because he's a healer, but he's also got to be some sort of fabricator because he makes he does use bones, but he still makes things from them. He makes the harp or whatever it is, and he tames the beasts with his harp. So maybe something about the whatever this animal centric Grisha is, that's the one that he's least good at, like Yuris was saying in King of Scars. I don't know, you guys, before we moved on, do you guys have, since Grigori is one that we've actually like learned some about outside of this, do you guys have any thoughts on him? No, we good.
I just really want to know how he became so weirdy, shifty, magic-y.
Yeah,
I would like to know more about that. I assumed it was just something about being stuck in that hellhole for however long, or maybe something that happened when he got pulled in the first place, because maybe he didn't have as much of a focus on what and who he was as the other two did. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
So we've already Valentine is the next one. We've already talked about that one at the beginning, and we whatever the heck he was. I guess if he was the patron saint of snakes, yet again, here is this animal thing going on that we can't place. It seems like a lot of the ones, if not most of the ones that I can't place, have something very specific to do with animals. So that's the more I'm like going through this now, the more I'm realizing, wow, I missed something here. And then Peter, which is, very real life. I don't get the Peter one. He's another one we could have mentioned earlier when we were talking about, like, this is an origin story, but it's like there's a demon in a lake and he lures the demon from the lake and somehow becomes the patron saint of archers. But like, it just says that he has the strength of the saints and he wasn't afraid to approach the lake. Like, there's nothing in here about powers he has.
I would say anything. He's the patron saint of having balls.
Yeah. I don't know how. I guess he became the patron saint of archers because the hunters killed the demon with arrows. So this might be one of the ones where there's some sort of like deeper meaning or like other thing that I'm missing. And that we need Nami to flesh it out for us later.
Okay, all right. Let me hypothesize. All right, what do we have here? We got dude with guts who just hugs the demon until they stab him. So I'm going to guess perhaps that he is a corporalki and he is able to hold on to the demon because he can kind of like control the muscles and be like, hold still, bitch.
I mean, he also is speaking like psalms as it happens.
Yeah.
So like,
also,
I'm not convinced he's a Grisha.
Yeah, all of this operates on the fact that like demons need to be corporeal, which I don't know is actually a thing. So I'm willing to call this but not a Grisha, honestly. I'm willing to call this. He's the patron saint of having the balls to do what everybody else couldn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of demons being corporeal, though, the very first story in the book, Margareta, that demon has to be corporeal because it literally drowns itself holding on to the giant like gem that she throws into the canal. So there's that. So yeah, sure, whatever. Corporalky, I guess we can drink from those. All right. Yerian of the Mill. Another one that this person could have been a fabricator because she somehow creates flour from nothing. But I didn't think that fabricators could just make food like that. So
you ever get so mad that you just manifest some grain?
Don't I wish? No. Could probably solve world hunger that way.
It would be really nice, honestly. I wish I could just manifest grain when I felt so inclined.
But yeah, I don't. I mean, and the ending of this, anger. The ending of this one being that the rich, nobleman, like he like orders his people to dig tunnels or something to like see like how she got out of the mill to sneak in the grain to make the flour, and like they all get lost and they all get lost underneath, like they all get lost. Nobody knows where they ever go.
Yeah. They basically die because they get lost inside these random tunnels they made.
I laughed a lot at that. Honestly. I was like, serves you right, you jackasses.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Die in a hole, literally. Bye.
But yeah, I mean, I really thought that like fabricators, they went by the rules of like Harry Potter, the magic in there that they can't create food from nothing. So, that I don't know about Yerian, but fair,
though, that is completely an assumption. We do not know that they can't do that. We just know that they haven't done that.
This is true. And also we're only hearing, again, like these are so short and like we're only hearing part of the story on so many of them, including that one, that it's like, well, maybe there's something else to this that like, no, she didn't create flour from nothing, but she somehow, I don't know, was able to multiply. She multiplied the fishes and breads like Jesus or something.
Ouch.
I feel like that might be blasphemous.
Jesus.
I'd say I'm sorry, but I don't.
You really don't care.
It's just a Bible story. I don't know. All right, so Felix among the boughs. I'm more sure than unsure that he's a Grisha. Perhaps Inferni because of all the fire themed visions people attached to him. And this is one of the ones where I actually like looked at, like felt down deep into it and was like, okay, well, this doesn't really make sense. I wasn't sure at first, but now I kind of glance over it again and it's like, the weather is bad. And this, the vineyards or whatever and orchards in his area don't die when everybody else's do. Like they stay alive. So it's too cold everywhere else. Everything freezes over and dies, but not here. And they're saying like they saw a red sun, a wall of burning thorns, a horse with a mane of fire, blah blah blah. So like it's all very fire. Everything else succumbs to frost, but this one, these orchards don't. So like I would guess he's an Inferni who somehow used his power to keep things warm.
Yeah, I was kind of two-folding it. I was thinking that he is, a fabricator who is using his control and like sort of influence over plants and like knowledge of plants to help keep them alive, and then also an Inferni who is able to keep them warm.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give him double duty on this one.
I mean, I drank for him already because fire, all of the fire symbolism was just too much for him to not be. Okay.
Well, make warm when cold.
Yeah. This next one is weird as fuck. Lucan, he's the patron saint of politicians. He's one of the longer stories in the book. It's a funny story because he's this dude who just won't shut up, but he gives like really good advice. And so like this king, rules with Lucan by his side, essentially, and everything is great. And then when he's dying, he's like, sorry, son, like, you got to keep Lucan around. So his son tries to, he's annoyed by Lucan. He bothers him because he talks all the time. He won't shut the fuck up. And yeah, he's really boring, like really boring. He's just constantly, proselytizing to them or whatever. So they eventually kill him, because I can't remember if there was actually a reason for it or not. I'm trying to look at it now.
He just didn't like him.
Basically the kid's like, the guy who becomes king is like, I did vow that I would keep him until the end of his life. I'm just accelerating that end.
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. So he ends Lucan's life, but apparently Lucan doesn't really die. Like, his head's still there, talking away, giving advice. So he has to put his head on a pedestal and listen to him. This is a funny story. I enjoyed it. But I also just.
Yeah, I don't know what's up, but I was just amused.
Yep.
There's no, are there stories of Grisha somehow staying alive after losing their, this is, a beheading.
This is another one where I don't necessarily think that it's a Grisha. It's just a weird thing that happened.
Or it is, sorry, and the story is so far blown out of proportion that we could, I can't, Nami seems to be better at this than I am, but I can't figure out how a dude who won't shut up being beheaded and still staying alive becomes a
perhaps a botched beheading, and they only beheaded a little bit.
just a little beheading as a treat.
Beheading, just a breakfast beheading. Breakfast beheading meaning that you could be healed in time for lunch.
Oh God! Well, if he is a corporalki, just saying.
I would say corporalki if anything, because it sounds like he just healed himself, or just straight up yeeted all of his conscience into his head and was like, "Okay, listen, I'm not done. I got more wisdom for y'all's."
I don't even know if he said more wisdom. Just I have more things I need to talk about.
I am finished. How dare you?
Speaking of corporalkies, the next one is Magda. She is definitely a corporalki. Maybe there could be some fabrication in there, but definitely head corporalki. She heals literally everybody. There's the whole story begins with how she helps everybody by healing them, and then they they chase her away.
I'm also going to give her squalor powers as well, because there's the part at the end where all the girls who run away are whisked off by the wind, and then they find her and they find a safe house. And also, let it be known that I am absolutely down to join this commune.
Yep.
Let me in, Magda, please.
Her or the one from Language of Thorns, the little girl in Language of Thorns that joins with the
Witch of Duba.
Yeah. They're basically, it's almost are they the same thing? I feel like they even could be. You know what I mean?
This is true, and I think they're both Robkin tales, so I would absolutely buy that. Also, don't mind me, guys. I'm just setting up actual reading journal nonsense, so I can keep statistics and shit in here, and I'm just straight
sure
up scrapbook. Just don't mind me.
I honestly can't believe that we still have what is this 7 more of these to go? 6 more of these to go?
I know. I'm trying to be so quick.
That's so many.
It's I know, but some of it's the ones that are quick, and the ones that aren't. Egmont is next. He is the one with the ice court. So I believe.
Yeah, okay, so definitely a fabricator. Also, this one made me have a lot of feelings about the ice court, just because the whole time Nina's in there and she's like, y'all, a fabricator fucking made this. And I'm like, did you right?
Well, I mean, and the funny thing is like this is in Lives of the Saints, so like how did they? I guess because Alina says like she knows some of the tales because Anya Kuya told them the stories, but like it's an old book that isn't necessarily shared with young people anymore. So I guess that kind of is like why that could be a reason why Nina doesn't, she's just saying yes it is, even though she doesn't really know, because like this is like it's so obvious, like it's obvious that it's a Fjerdan tale. If this was supposed to be in the original Lives of the Saints that we're told about in the original trilogy, like it's
Well, I think the other thing is that it's wholly possible that Nina does know this story and just has disregarded it, because the way that Lives of the Saints is regarded within the actual series is that it's a bunch of silly children's stories about the saints. It makes sense that, for somebody who hasn't made the connection between the saints are Grisha and the Grisha are saints, it makes a lot of sense that you would look at that story and be like, ha ha, that's just what that's just what they like to pretend, that their whole ice court was made by a saint because they don't want to fucking admit it. And like to her, like that connection might not even be there.
Well, and I think also like it's a Fjerdan story, so even it being in the original book, that doesn't mean it would be one that's spoken, that's told by word of mouth, the way which is how Alina heard most of the stories she heard. So it could just be that it's in there, but they actually haven't ever heard it because they don't read the book.
And another thing that would make it a lot of sense as well, too, because it sounds like Nina grew up in the Little Palace, and, once you're old enough to be chosen as a Grisha, you're like 3 to 7 at the point where you move in. Yeah. And so,
she was a little older, I think, but 5, 6 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, somewhere around there, but very much like an old, little kid. And so, it makes sense that you would go into the Little Palace and then they wouldn't tell you stories about the Fjerdans because they're, straight up trying to murder y'all.
True.
Okay, so next is Ilia and Chains. This is not a true origin story, but we already know his story from the original trilogy. So, I was totally fine with this kind of short, blurb about him. He does look a little bit more Jesus-like than I would prefer in the picture. The way it's like he looks like Catholic Jesus, like the white Jesus with the beard and the longish hair, and the way he's standing with his arms spread wide, even though they're chains and not nails to a cross. It's a bit much.
Convinced your aunt is actually Obi-Wan, that Jesus.
Yeah, he does a little. Well, his nose is a little bit too much. But so this is an origin story. It's a little brief story, but it's definitely about Ilia as a person who was alive and brought a child back from the dead. And the worst part about this is the child, they refuse to accept the child. So supposedly the child wanders around asking for its parents, and everybody's like, no, ew, you're a zombie. So that's creepy. Cool. Way to go, Ilia.
I didn't hate it as zombie. I just hate it now. I already didn't
though. The kid was legit alive. He wasn't very good at what he did here. He had no bedside manner, Ilia. He was a corporalky healer, whatever, but he had zero bedside manner. He was a very bad doctor.
Bedside manner. He had no bedside manner. Sorry, I've been murdered. Call back later. No brain cells.
The funny thing about the next one, which is Ursula, is that it's a person named Ursula, and it's a Fjerdan tale, and she's a corporalky, she's able to hold her breath forever, is what I would guess. Or this is a bastardization of the story from Language of Thorns. It's one or the other.
Right.
Of the Language of Thorns story for.
Yeah, because they want to split her in two the way they used to do it on purpose, to make them.
That they specifically mentioned that this is the story about how that split in the land that's called the something cart is created, and that is specifically what they say is created at the end of the story. So I was like, damn.
And what was the name of the character in that story in Language of Thorns?
Ula.
I'm sorry, Ula. Okay, so I knew it wasn't Ursula, and it wasn't super close, other than it's starting with a U and ending with an A. But okay, so you know, she's probably, you know, she's a Grisha of some sort. I guess if this is Ula and just a bastardization of her story, then, you know, we know that who she's descended from and everything. But I actually kind of now want to like, I almost want to reread like that story and like read this one next to it and try to see where they might have pulled it from, you know? Because like the whole point of the Language of Thorns is that these are also tales that are supposed to be told. So like somehow this ended up in both. This is a folk tale and part of their religion, which is interesting.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious about what like the actual true story of Ula Ursula is.
Next is Matthias, who my original thought was like, I don't know if he's a Grisha. Like, I love him so much because he's good to the puppies, but like, there's nothing in here that convinces me he's a Grisha, except now that we keep talking about the animal things, I'm just like, we just are gonna we're gonna gloss over Matthias and be like, he was whatever this. He has this. He has this, yeah, he's a Doolittle. He has this Grisha skill that we haven't heard about yet that Leigh Bardugo, please, please, please will flesh out in Rule of the Wolves, because like, wow, the more I like, and I also think part of it is like, we discussed so much of King of Scars, and then I read this and then I was kind of skimming it again. And then we've talked about it so much tonight that like, this is the great thing about this webcast is this has literally made me like, just so cemented in the fact that this has to be a thing. All right, Dimitri is we're down to our last couple. Dimitri is the one who like basically starved to death because he wanted to be like a monk or something. Like, and his parents were like, "Nah, like we're kings and queens. You're our heir. You're gonna do whatever we want you to." And they lock him in a tower, and like he's gonna be starved until he like marries and becomes a prince. And he's like, nope, nope, nope. And like, they think that he's being fed because it goes on forever. And then they finally open the door and he's just a skeleton. And this has definitely got to be, first of all, this very much brings Last Unicorn to mind for me. I don't know if you guys have seen The Last Unicorn, but there's the skeleton in it that's like in the dungeons or whatever of the palace, and he's like glug glug glug. Like, I don't think Dimitri is all like glugging and you know like that, but that's what I thought of when I read this.
Made me laugh though. I was like,
like he's just, but so is he a Grisha? I don't. Singing though, like, was he really a skeleton? Because that was actually the first time I delved into the whole, oh, these aren't really like, this is way too literal. Like, he couldn't have actually been a skeleton. Like, maybe he was a fabricator who used the bones to create a speaking skeleton somehow. Fabricator corporalky. I don't know. Like, he definitely wasn't just a skeleton, but he had to have been a Grisha. He had to have been a Grisha, I think.
I thought corporalky, if anything.
Like a Grigori type corporalky who, you know, because Grigori created things from bones. So were they his bones? And if they weren't his bones, whose bones were they? That's the creepy part.
Bone stash?
All right. So we're down to the last we're down to the last actual saint, which is actual quote unquote saint, which is Garrison. Gonna go with Fabricator here because he is a monk who never speaks and he paints. And the way they describe the paints is just, you know, everything is perfect and beautiful. No one creates work so fine. There's really, you know, there's really no way there's no story here other like he creates these beautiful things and this duke doesn't care for the way Garrison like paints him and they have him executed. Like,
duke get mad.
And he's the patron saint of artists, and this is the story we get. That seems sort of weak, but okay. Like, there's so many other fabricators in here that create artistic things that, like, this is the patron saint of artists. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least. Well, second to last but not least.
Or two last but not least.
Yeah. Oh, God. This is bad. I need to drink more. We're getting to the dark like quick. Alina, this is this story. I didn't expect an origin story, or at least not the origin story that we know. You know what I mean? But this is a weird one because not only was it not an origin story, but it didn't have anything about Alina in it, really. Like, there was an orphanage and orphans, and that's basically it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is one of the ones that I was sort of like very meh on, because I was expecting to see like whatever the new story they would write about Alina's origins and like whatever bullshit they would make up. And instead they're like, she protect orphan because orphan prayed to her. And I'm like, but she didn't. Like, she's off. And then, oh shit, I just thought of this. Is she the old woman? What if this is just far future bullshit and she's the old woman and she's like, hey, I'm gonna take care of you kids.
Oh, not the evil countess.
Oh my god, no.
Oh, okay, no. Okay, you're talking about the old one. Well, I think that what it is like, I don't even know. I don't know. Like, I do think she's the old woman, but I don't. I think this is all just like, they're describing her as an old woman, but how old is she really to a bunch of small children? You know what I mean?
She has white hair, so
yeah, and she also didn't look that hot after she lost her powers. So like, I feel like it's probably, this is about children who actually ended up with Alina, but it's very exaggerated and also, you know, just incorrect information about Alina herself. It's a very, yeah, it's not the story I would have it's not the story I hoped for. I didn't like you said, like I was hoping for an origin, but I was hoping for the Lives of the Saints version of her origin. You know what I mean? Which would have been, because I mean, you can see the different threads of it, you know, in the original trilogy and where, like, what sort of story they're going to create for her. So it's like, I'm okay with it not being an origin story, I guess. But the fact that like it's also just so like because yes, Alina might be might look older and have white hair and still be like saving orphans, but like the magic of it is obviously not correct because Alina has no magic. You know, she's not actually a saint. They couldn't pray to her and be saved by magical Alina the Saint, you know. And she also doesn't live in a little like cabin in the woods or whatever. She lives in a mansion essentially. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's not the worst, but it's not what I wanted or expected.
Yeah.
Oh God. I said we would have to finish our drinks when we got to the Darkling, but I will die if I do that. So we'll see how fast I can.
They kept a splash so that I could finish it.
I got like half of this White Claw left. That's a lot of White Claw to drink in a few minutes.
Yeah,
so
I'll just
try to finish it before we stop talking.
Just take like a nice swig and that'll be finishing it.
So last but not least, or this is actual last but not least, the Starless Saint.
Actual last.
Oh God. Yeah. Actually last, but actually the least by like so far.
So I actually want to like say though for this one, I think I enjoyed this one a lot more than I expected to, because I liked how we got like the why Yuri is like this.
Why Yuri is like.
Because like, let's be really fair. If this had also happened to me, like, yeah, I'd be dangling off the Darkling's dick. Like let's go, like, straight up save this kid.
Yeah, because again, this is another non-origin story, which we didn't expect an origin story, or I didn't at least, especially after reading. I guess when I started this, I expected an origin story, and when I got to the end, I was like, okay, I get that these aren't origin stories, but so this is a Yuri origin story?
Yep.
As if I really wanted to know more about that prick. What do we call him, Richard Spencer? I don't want to know you, Richard Spencer. You're the opposite of a Doolittle Alki. Get out of my life. I wish I was drunk and that's why I'm talking like this. No, somehow 4 White Claws does not a drunk Tara make. That's really depressing, honestly.
White claws are weak. They should
are.
be weak claws.
But they're green.
Well, they are white, so.
Hey.
Hey.
So yeah, this
in case
is
anybody's like listening to this
as a podcast.
I'm very white. So I'm just making fun of myself.
So yeah, I liked that this is like Yuri's backstory, and also hated it because again, like I really don't want to know more about you, Yuri.
Yeah, it was one of those things that like I started reading it and I was like, oh, not this prick. And then by the end, I was like, yeah, I still don't like him, but I get it now, and I'm kind of glad that we got this story because like you can get why somebody's evil and still be like, yeah, that bitch evil, but like it also makes it a little more rewarding to have a villain that makes sense versus one that's just comedically evil for the sake of being evil. Or comedically, like, idiotically up evil's ass for the sake of it, which is what Yuri was. And I was just like, up until now, I was kind of like, huh, what a dumbass. And now I'm like, oh, what a dumbass. Still
I do kind of wish we had gotten this story in King of Scars, because it would have helped the Yuri character not be as just so terrible. I still wouldn't have liked him.
Right.
But it would have been more like Matthias not liking him than what even is the point of this Richard Spencer stand-in.
Well, and I think some of it too is like I and this might be, I mean, maybe this is something Leigh really like kind of created after the fact, you know, I don't know. Maybe she always had I feel like she probably always had his backstory in there, because also King of Scars was written fairly recently. Like, as someone who was raised in not an abusive home, but like a lot of times people who are raised in really like strict, like yeah, I don't want to say my home was abusive physically, because it absolutely wasn't, but like there is a lot of that. Well, my parents hit me, so it's fine if I hit you. You know what I mean? Well, like it's so, and I think that Yuri's like obsession, like that sort of childhood, that abusive childhood, carries over into different sorts of obsessions, and like sometimes people deal with them in healthy ways eventually, and sometimes they don't, and he's a don't. But it does make me wonder, you know, he hears this voice like telling him don't go, and it's like, was that because he says like the Darkling spoke to him, and was this the first time the Darkling supposedly spoke to him, or was he just, I don't know, you know, it's very weird, because like also if it was the first time the Darkling spoke to him, if the Darkling was somehow able to pick this like abused child out of a crowd and be like, this is the one, this is the guy I can manipulate, because that's exactly what he did, you know. I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit worse for Yuri. Just a little bit. Just a smidge, a tad, a little tiny bit.
There's one tiny space for a Yuri-related feel in my heart, and it has officially been opened. I did not want it open. I was not ready to give it space, but it has been given a home now, and I guess this is who I am.
The actual last thing in this book is Saint of the Book, and I just want to say this art is one of the ones that I love. Also, I want this outfit. I want her coat. I want her coat so much. If you do not have Lives of the Saints in physical copy, or if you do have it, like if you can, is the art included like in full color if you're reading it like on Kindle or whatever? I honestly, my Kindle, I have a Kindle that I haven't touched in about 5 years, and it's like ye old like black and white Kindle, like not even the Paperwhite one. So like you wouldn't see this art in there, but she's wearing this amazing sort of like pirate-esque coat over like a white gown, but it's very much like Leigh's story, you know. Like
we also talk about like that last line. It says, "Erase my name. Indelible is a word for stories." Like, so
that's a good line.
So pretty. Like Leigh's a great writer, and I think part of why I like her writing so much is that it's just normally very good writing, and then every now and then she just comes in with these like perfectly poetic bits, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's also really she had several great quotes about like reading in previous books, and this like she's got another one here. I remember only how I fell into books, never to rise from their pages, how I was never truly awake until I began to dream of other worlds. I mean, I don't remember what it was like to not be able to read when I was a child. I honestly don't. I started reading on my own when I was 4. So I literally have zero memories of not being able to read. I remember reading books that were way too advanced for my age and maybe not understanding them totally. But yeah, she has, I think we had shared, I had shared some on the Sagas and Sass like social media as well, like some quotes from previous books, including King of Scars, about just her love, like the love of books and reading and everything. Most of them I think were from Nikolai, and yeah, she's very, very good at that. So all right, that brings us to the end of Lives of the Saints. And you guys, like, so 2 weeks from now, we are going to be doing a quick little webcast recap of the event that Leigh Bardugo is doing with Roman's Bookstore in Pasadena, California. So that's March 31st, and literally, or March 31st, right? So it's literally the day before that is the day that Rule of Wolves comes out. So we all have a week and a day to read Rule of Wolves before our April, I think it's 7th, Wednesday, April 7th webcast, where we're covering the entirety of that book, because like no way in hell could we get, like, I know I'm going to be spoiled for it if I'm not careful, because none of the pages I follow are good about spoilers. So gosh, so yeah, we're in the like home stretch hardcore of our Grishaverse coverage, which is like kind of sad.
It is.
We've been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
What is it going to be post Grishaverse?
I mean, it's going to be dragons. Is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
I've already started reading.
We know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be the Temporary series. I've already gotten one and a third ways through books there. So, but yeah, so 2 weeks from now will be just a quick chat, I think, about that. Well, hopefully, quick chat about that virtual get together with Leigh Bardugo, and that's it. Any last thoughts before I close us out?
No.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we all like it's like we liked this book because it's part of the Grishaverse, but it wasn't quite what we expected. So if you're watching this or listening to it as a podcast, please definitely hit us up on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sagas and Sass, and just like let us know what you thought, because like I'm definitely interested to hear what other fans felt about Lives of the Saints. Other than that, once again, I'm Tara, along with Nick and Nami this time. Thank you again for joining Sagas and Sass, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.